Hello, my name's Jacob, and welcome to a differently formatted Oscar predictions video from me, and my first one for the entire year. It's been a while since I've made a YouTube video to begin with. It's more something I just come back to when I feel like doing it or when I feel like talking about movies and Oscars, which is something I am very passionate about. And I'm joined today by another Aussie Oscar expert. This is Mikey Walsh, aka Movie Mike Reviews. You've definitely seen him on this channel before if you're an avid viewer of our awards prediction videos. We actually filmed this video about a month ago when Mikey was at my house for the Adelaide Film Festival, and by the time I had a chance to edit it, it was already outdated. So we're getting together to do it again after we have actually both seen, I would say, a good 90% of the contenders. Between us, I think we've seen just about everything, aside from a couple that just haven't screened anywhere. So Mikey, thank you for joining me today. Are you excited to talk Oscar predictions?
I'm very excited. I like to think that I'm somewhat responsible for trying to revive your YouTube channel by constantly pestering you to make these Oscar videos. And that's more just because I want an excuse to talk about these things that constantly are in my head. I spend far too much of my free time predicting the Oscars far too in advance. But I'm really looking forward to chatting through all of the categories. We're going to break this up into a couple of different videos that we can drop, which is exciting. Hopefully they don't get too outdated too quickly. I'm excited to chat about films that I've seen. Like a lot of these I've seen. There's really maybe only 3 major contenders now that I'm yet to see, and I'll see 2 out of those 3 in the next 2 weeks anyway. So it's an exciting time to be a movie fan, an exciting time to be a Oscars fan, and I'm excited to chat to a man who now bears a different name in our chat, and I don't know why he's chosen that name of all directors' names. But Jacob,
funny.
How do you want to start?
Well, we're in an interesting little sweet spot because, we've had the festivals, a lot of people have seen most of the films, but we're just about to start getting the actual big precursors. Like the Globe Noms are about a week away, if I'm not mistaken.
Globe Noms are a week away. Gothams are today. Indie Spirits are this week. You've got AFI, you've got MBR, you've got LA Film Critics, New York Film Critics, a bunch of other regional groups. We're about to start getting an overwhelming amount of, I think, just general consensus of what is in the conversation and what has not managed to stay in the conversation. So it's going to be really interesting.
And we're lodging our picks right before we get the real concrete data of precursors, so we can at least be somewhat smug about getting stuff right. But considering this is my first prediction video, I haven't followed the awards race this year as closely as I usually do. I've still seen all the movies. I'm still invested. But that's why I've got Mikey here, because he's the stats man, he lives and breathes this shit, whereas I'm more of a vibes-based Oscar predictor. But both of which I think are extremely valid ways to predict awards. I'm big on vibes, and I've gotten a lot of stuff right over the years just based on vibes. So let's get into...
Don't remind me of last year. That's fine.
Let's get into Best Picture. So we can't see, we don't know each other's predictions. We haven't talked about it, so we're just going to hash it out over the video. But number one, what do you have number one right now? I feel like the general consensus is Anora, and that's where I'm sitting right now too.
I don't have Anora at number one. I've got it at number 2, but I'm happy to chat about Anora first if you want to.
Exactly. Well, what's your number? Are you sitting? Do you got the Brutalist still sitting there? Or?
I've got the Brutalist sitting at number 1, and
you just saw it last night, so the high is there.
I had it as my number 1 before seeing it. I've now seen it, and I've no, I think this is number 1.
Whereas I had it number 1 maybe a month ago, but now I've sort of flipped to Anora. But again, it's sort of like a coin flip. I don't actually think we have a concrete front runner, and both of these, and it feels like the classic type of 2 movies that usually are in a 2-horse race. Anora is like your Poor Things or Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's a bit more funny and crowd pleasery and a bit left field, whereas The Brutalist is your more austere, cold, more traditional type of Oscar contender. And, we thought maybe those types of movies were done, but Oppenheimer winning last year means they definitely are not opposed to going for a big American epic.
Nomadland also winning in 2020. So
I would put that more on the... It's somewhere in between those two, I think. It's not big, but it's artsy.
But compared to the Trial of the Chicago 7, which was also in 2020, Nomadland was more of that prestige pick versus something that was maybe a little bit more commercial or accessible. But I think The Brutalist and Anora very much fit in those kind of 2 categories. And I think it just depends on where people want to go this year. I would not be surprised if, because of some of the themes in The Brutalist, if it ticks a lot of boxes, but if it also angers some people. It's fairly pro-Israel, and that might make it a more controversial choice.
I get that, but I also don't think that's entirely what the film is about.
No, no, not at all. And that's the thing. Like, I think that
you can watch it and basically ignore that angle of it. Like, it's not something that you're really thinking about at the forefront. It's definitely a part of its themes and a part of its exploration of this character's heritage, but it's also not pro-Israel in an aggressive or militaristic way based on what's happening right now. It's more just someone exploring their ancestry.
Yeah, but I think it's the kind of thing, like, if people are looking for a reason to not vote for the Brutalist, or a reason at this stage to say, what are the things, like, what are the cons of the Brutalist winning? I think that's one of them, and it's a very weak con. I think it ticks so many other boxes.
It's
and
depressing
I think
is a con. I think would put more stock into for that.
But if you also want to think about, so, like, you know, in terms of Anora, like, I enjoyed Anora. I wasn't blown away by Anora. I really enjoyed it. But in terms of, like, where else it's going to win, like, I think that Brady Corbett is more likely for director. I think screenplay, like, there are all the different categories. Like, I think Brutalist is just going to rack up way more noms than Anora. Now, being the nomination leader doesn't mean that you win Best Picture, but knowing that you've got lots of branches that are supporting your film and seeing your film definitely means that on a preferential ballot, the Brutalist could do better than Anora. Although Anora, being a crowd-pleasing film, could do very well on a preferential ballot. So
well, where we're at in opportunities, I actually think I do have Anora winning slightly more awards, or at least the same amount of awards than the Brutalist, because I think they are both mostly contending in above-the-line categories, whereas below the line, the Brutalist, outside of cinematography, there's not a ton I actually see it winning.
Okay.
Score.
And I don't think. I mean, look, we'll get into these categories later, but I don't think the Brutalist should be counted out in production design.
No, well, I would vote for it in production design. Whether I think it's going to win, there's a little musical we might have to talk about soon. But yeah, basically, I think you can make a great case for both of these in Best Picture. I think Anora maybe has more of a career narrative behind it, but The Brutalist has a great narrative just in terms of how the hell Brady Corbett actually got this film made for what is a relatively low budget, and just his story about trying to create stuff within the oppressive Hollywood studio system. There's definitely some of that thematically on screen.
Definitely. And I think it's interesting, like, The Brutalist is A24, like, they acquired it, they didn't produce it, but they're the ones distributing it and campaigning it, and Anora is Neon. And so to have kind of the two big indie kind of distributors like battling it out, I find that very interesting and entertaining. And I think it'll be interesting, like, if we want to move, like, did you have any more to say about Brutalist or Anora, or do you want to move to your third?
No, I think they would both be great winners, and I kind of hope that it remains a two-horse race between these two. Sing Sing is my personal favorite of the Best Picture contenders still, but, like, these two are not far behind it, and I would say I like Anora a little more, but, like, it's not by much, and I think I really hope these two can hang on as the front runners.
Yeah. In terms of third pick, what have you got?
I have Wicked.
So do I.
Yeah.
And again, the reason I wanted to say, look, can we wrap up, like, is because, I mean, look, you're going to see all of these different headlines about, how could Wicked win Best Picture? And whilst I don't actually think it's going to happen, Wicked has Universal behind it versus The Brutalist, which is A24, and Anora, which is Neon. Like, this isn't to say that A24 and Neon can't win Best Pictures. They have previously, but Universal won last year for Oppenheimer. And they've now got Wicked, and it's this massive sensation, but it becomes this whole thing of, do they award Wicked Part 1, or do they hold off for Part 2? Is that risky? Because it's generally agreed in, like, the musical theatre community that Act 1 of Wicked is stronger than Act 2. So there's a lot of people that are like, look, Part 2 of Wicked could be a less film. We'll see what happens there. So there's a whole bunch of different things. But I think at this stage, like, if you're not predicting Wicked for a Best Picture nomination, you're a fool. And so I'm happy to put it at third, because I think it is so secure that having it at third just makes sense.
And I have it at third also because I think it's maybe the only film that I can make a solid case for winning outside of that top two. I mean, maybe something like a Sing Sing if it were to have a big resurgence, but really outside of Anora and the Brutalist, the Wicked's the only thing that I think I can see a path where this wins, and it scares the hell out of me. It's not. This is not reactionary to its current temptation. I know the hype will die down. It's not going to. Not everyone is going to be the fucking Astra Awards and get nominated for every single category it's eligible in. The Oscars aren't quite going to do that, but I think the movie is proven that it is well liked enough, and it could.
I think. With like the Astros, like they went all in on Barbie, and I think Wicked is very comparable to Barbie.
Absolutely,
Barbie didn't win Best Picture, and so I don't think Wicked is going to win Best Picture because again,
but I don't think it will. But it could.
Like, I think it's definitely probably between Anora and Wicked for comedy musical at the Globes. I think Wicked could very well win PGA. I don't know about SAG Ensemble, but I think that it would be likely to be nominated. It's not going to win BAFTA, but yeah, it kind of there's definitely ways that it could end up winning, and so it'll be interesting to see. But you brought up Sing Sing. Where have you got Sing Sing in your top 10? Is it in your top 10?
Yeah, of course it's in my top 10.
Yeah, good.
Come on. I have it in that sort of middle rung packet because I absolutely have not given up on it. But I've
got it at 5th.
I have a 5th also. So well, let's talk about 4th. Do we align on Conclave being 4th?
No, I've got Conclave at 6th.
I just have complete confidence that film will be in there, and that's where it is. Conclave is not going to win Best Picture, but it's going to get like 5 or 6 nominations basically everywhere, and it will not leave. Yeah. Conclave is my safe, consistent pick, and it will not leave.
I think Conclave is, very secure, very safe. I don't know if I see it getting as many nominations as it maybe could. And I wouldn't be surprised if it misses a couple of tech noms. I honestly see it getting a pretty similar package plus picture to the Two Popes of all films in terms of, like, I think it will fit into picture. And then I think, you've got acting, you've got screenplay. And then I think in terms of tech awards that Conclave has is score and maybe cinematography.
I can absolutely see editing for it too.
Editing, like I think there's a lot of possibilities. Yeah, I've got Conclave at 6. I think Conclave is a very secure nom. But I've got another film at 4, which I think is a slightly more secure
Dune Part
nom.
2?
Dune Part 2.
See, I've got that, like, so again, that top 7, it's all pretty, like, I feel pretty safe about all of it.
Like, Dune Part 2 feels safer for a Best Picture nomination than the first Dune did.
I feel about the same because Dune, really thinking it was like the only big blockbuster in that COVID year. Like, I feel like it was always going to happen. And I feel about the same for this one in that it's not becoming this knockout, like Return of the King type movie that we maybe thought it could, but it's also not doing any worse either. So something would have to go very wrong for Dune Part 2 to not make it in.
I think given the fact that Warner Brothers really doesn't have any other kind of horse in this race, like they have
nothing
Joker
else
2,
in my 20. No.
They don't have Juror number 2. They don't have Beetlejuice. Like, these are, films that could compete in maybe some like techs or like, I really don't think Juror number 2 is going to show up anywhere, if I'm honest. And so I think, Dune Part 2 is Warner Brothers will put all their eggs in that basket. And I think it's fairly safe. So, it sounds like we've got the same kind of top.
Yeah. Oh, there might be one
you got Dune at 7. So what's your?
Well, I was just gonna say one more word on Sing Sing. I do have it in that direct middle spot because it's sort of the kind of film that I think it's not completely dead for winning Best Picture, but I also think it's the type of movie that could miss the nomination if something goes really wrong.
Yeah, like
so I've got it sitting in the middle there.
I think in a preferential ballot, I don't think it will.
If people see it, it gets in. If people see it gets in.
And I think it's fairly locked in for actor and for screenplay because adapted screenplay is fairly kind of weak anyways. Like, I think Sing Sing is locked in there, and I think it would make sense to get into Best Picture. But again, it was never going to have a huge amount of nominations either. And so if it wins Best Picture, it'll be more of a Coda trajectory than an Oppenheimer trajectory.
Exactly. Which it seems like that's what they've been kind of going for the entire time.
Yeah. They just need to get the actors out campaigning the film. And again,
if this film doesn't win the SAG Ensemble,
it's
a huge error. I don't think it's actually going to win now, but like if it doesn't win that award, they've fucked up completely.
Yeah, there's all this room, all these, all this word that they're going to promote the film, that they like A24 are going to bring the film back. I'm yet to see it, as in like them bring it back. I've seen Sing Sing, and it's one of my favorite films of the year. I think it's my fourth favorite film of the year.
It's my number 2. It's my favorite of this entire crop, and I'm so sad that it's slipping away from us.
And I think like every Oscars year has some level of political reactivity, and I can see how Sing Sing could be a film that does kind of is a bit of a time capsule for where we're at the moment.
And it does it's a crowd pleaser, but it does make a political statement about the prison industrial complex, and it does have important things to say. So, I don't like that it's being seen as slight. I feel like that's just because it's a small movie. People are kind of brushing it off a little bit, but we need our small movies. There are a lot of big ones popping up in this race.
Everyone got worried about Past Lives last year, and Past Lives firmly made it in, and it didn't really miss anything major. And
I mean, it didn't do as well as what people wanted for it from the beginning, but it got in there.
Yeah, it got in. Like, it got PGA. But PGA was also, they nominated Anatomy of a Fallen Zone of Interest. So I really have no doubts that Sing Sing will remain in the conversation.
Oh, the PGA cool now? Who's to say? All right, so my 6 is one that I think you've been losing faith in more than me, but I just have less faith in the Academy to have taste than you do, I think. I have Amelia Perez at 6. I just think it's not slowing down. Yes, the Letterboxd ratings have been dropping since it dropped on Netflix. There will be discourse. There will be think pieces. I'll be writing the fucking think pieces because I think it's one of the worst films of the entire year. But I just think too many people love it. It just keeps popping up. The passion is there. It's appealing to casuals. It's appealing to, I don't know if it'll do great at film critics groups, but in terms of industry people and audiences, I think it's just hitting. And it placed at TIFF.
It did place at TIFF.
And we're in a year where the winner isn't coming out.
Yeah.
Where do you have it? Do you still have it in the 10?
I have it at 10.
Yeah, fair enough.
And it's solely because Netflix are behind it.
Yeah, they don't like Netflix. And also Wicked coming in maybe hurts it because, they've got another musical to galvanize around, but
Netflix are pushing Amelia Perez. Like,
it has such a high nomination ceiling.
I don't know if you've seen the amount of for your consideration merch that they've sent out to Critics' Choice and Globes and other they are campaigning this film so hard. And I'll be honest, I saw the film and I walked out and I loved it. I was raving about it. And then I sat with it for a couple of weeks and I've just continued to sour on it. But that's more
Didn't take me a couple of weeks, brother.
It's that more in a reflection on the themes, whereas the film itself it's an engaging, entertaining, all these things personally. But just the fact that it's making these comments about Mexico, it's making these comments about, trans people, and there are no people that are Mexican or trans that are involved in the creative team. It's just starting to feel a little bit that's why I don't think it's going to take off necessarily with critics groups. But again, Green Book won Best Picture.
Exactly. It's your Green Book. It's
an
your
issues
Don't Look
film.
Up. It's your film that will appeal to the lowest common denominator of these voting bodies.
Yeah. So I've got it in at 10. And again, I see it having a decent nomination crop. You've got actress, you've got potentially 2 supporting actress nominations, potentially 2 song nominations, score, cinematography, probably not cinematography, but sound, editing, maybe makeup. There's some fairly impressive prosthetics work, but we'll see if that ends up beating out some other larger makeup contenders. But I don't think Amelia Perez is out of the conversation, but I think that there's so much conversation around it that could either benefit it or be to its detriment.
I don't think it's going to matter. I think it's just going to be a constant, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's close to the win in so many categories, like supporting actress.
Yeah. Can I ask, because I can't remember, do you think that Zoe Saldana is at least deserving of that win, or would that be one of those ones you're
I think, but I mean, we'll get to this in the acting video, but I feel like her and Grande both are good, and I would not put them in my top 10.
Wow.
They're both good in their movies. I think they would both be silly winners, but not winners I would be angry at. They're not like a Jamie Lee Curtis level.
Yeah, no,
I don't get
nothing
it.
will
Like,
be
I
Jamie
get
Lee
it.
level.
They're good. They're just not real. I don't think they're that amazing.
Okay.
But she probably was my favorite part of Amelia Perez, a film that had very few favorite parts. So I don't mean to be dunking on it this entire video, but it's my award season villain this year, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so I feel like, do we both agree that we like the Nickel Boys?
Yeah, so I have Nickel Boys. Drop the it's cleaner. I have Nickel Boys at 8.
Yeah, same here.
And I'm very keen for it. I'm seeing it next Tuesday.
I hate you so much. It's the one thing here really that I haven't seen yet. But again, I'm really excited about it based on everything I've heard. I know it's earning like comparisons to something like The Zone of Interest in terms of the spot it occupies in the awards race and its big swings and the way its aesthetics really hammer home its themes and everything. So
what I'm wondering is that, like last year, The Zone of Interest, the big thing that it was kind of singled out for amongst a myriad of other things was its sound design. That was so creative and so new. And the cinematography in Nickel Boys is the thing that everyone keeps that's the craft that everyone's like, oh, the cinematography in Nickel Boys. And everyone goes, oh, but there's no way that Nickel Boys could beat out, Dune Part 2 or The Brutalist in cinematography. They're bigger films. And you go, well, Zone of Interest beat Oppenheimer for sound.
Yeah, that's actually nuts when you think about it.
Yeah, it's nuts. And so I go Nickel Boys. I don't think it's like I'm hoping it's win competitive in cinematography because I don't think it's going to
have it getting in.
Yeah, and again, like this will come up in other categories, but like I've got it showing up in some other places as well. So, and again, if we're going to talk about studios, that's Amazon's major push. Yes, they've also got another film which we can bring up a bit later. But I think Nickel Boys is really where Amazon MGM are wanting to put their kind of effort into campaigning, and I've got it at 8.
And it got a few nominations at the Astras, which again don't matter. But the fact that like the Astras are very, very populist, and the fact that they still went for it in some of those big categories, like screenplay. Did they give it director? I can't remember.
No.
Yeah, but it got in some places. Places there. It'll do very well with critics. It could be the type of film that like wins New York critics or something like that. So I think as long as it just keeps like a couple claws in there, so we've got that coming. We'll know that after this video is out. So I feel okay about that. It's one that I don't feel as locked as that top 7, but I do feel pretty good about it.
I do also think that Nickel Boys is the kind of film that it'll just kind of keep popping up in places, and so it will kind of just always be a part of the conversation.
And someone's going to go nuts for it. Like maybe the BAFTAs put it in the Best Picture 5 and go crazy for it. Yeah. Maybe the Globes, who are cool and foreign now, go hard for it.
Well, yeah, like I think that the Globes, like I think Nickel Boys is firmly in that 5th spot for Globe drama, and the 6th spot is where I'm more like, oh, I wonder
that's an exciting slot.
There. Yeah, that's the exciting slot. But the HCA, so the Astras, they're a better predictor of the Critics' Choice Awards. The Critics' Choice Awards do serve in some aspects as being a decent precursor for the Oscars because they're televised. And
but they're also kind of dumb, and I could see them not going for Nickel Boys.
No, but the fact that the Astras went for Nickel Boys, I think means that Critics' Choice will probably go for Nickel Boys, which means that it's in the conversations.
How many nominations is Wicked getting at Critics' Choice? Is it clearing 15?
It's going to get a lot. It'll get a lot.
It's not going to get everything it's eligible for, like the Astros did.
No, it won't.
So that's the thing. It will die down, but it's getting like, I'm going to say it's getting at least 7 Oscar nominations, and that's just a number I'm pulling out of my ass.
I think we will get 10. Well, we can go through and tally this later, but
I'm just hoping people like the cinematography branch are more discerning and don't just throw it in like everywhere they can. But anyway, let's go back on to Best Picture. A Real Pain. We both confident?
Yes. So that was what I was about to bring up. I've got A Real Pain at 7, so I've got it above Nickel Boys. I've got it above Amelia Perez because I got Amelia Perez in the bubble at 10. A Real Pain. A Real Pain was it was the kind of film that. It came out at Sundance, and everyone's like, this is great, but is it going to get into Best Picture? But everyone that saw it loved it. And everyone's kind of like, oh, but is it too small? Like, it's all those, like, it's the whole too small argument that I go, well, this film's too small. And then I saw A Real Pain, and I went, no, this is in my top 10 of the year. I love this movie.
I think there's a difference between when you say small in terms of the content of the film and its position in the awards race. It's a small film in terms of what it is about, but it's a big studio Searchlight's number one film. And most people who have seen it have been really, really pleased with it and like pleasantly surprised with it.
Yeah,
to the
and
point
it's
where
been competitive in supporting actor and screenplay. Jesse Eisenberg might end up being that 5th best actor slot. Like, there's a whole bunch of things. What I do think is interesting with A Real Pain, you know, because we talked about The Brutalist earlier and its kind of Jewish identity focus, is that I think that A Real Pain does a really good job of focusing on Jewish identity and heritage without necessarily coming off as like Zionist or like pro-Israel, in a way that The Brutalist is far more like, no, we like, there's like
there's a big like speech about them getting their land
there's
and
the radio
everything like that.
telecast
Yeah,
and, you know, like all of those things.
Whereas this one's more about their own personal connection to this place and these people and everything.
So
and it's more again about their own neuroses and anxieties existing in the modern world and how they want what the other one has and everything. It's just such a great little drama, and it has there's enough there. The screenplay, there's Tolkien.
I love
it's even beautifully like it has beautiful cinematography. Like Michelle Dymak, who like is like one of the best DPs working right now.
It's really well paced. That's what I love. Like, it's just fast, and like I think that like it's a no-brainer for the Ace Eddie like best edited comedy awards and stuff. Like, I think it'll get in there. So I think A Real Pain is
comedy, forget about it. We'll do well there. Like so yeah, I feel good about it. And I think that last film in here, Your 9, My 10, will be where we diverge, I think, because I'm guessing you're still a big believer in Seat of the Sacred Fig and have that in.
I am.
I'm currently a believer in The Substance. I've taken The Substance. That's my 10 spot, but like Sacred Fig is very valid pick as well. I have that just on the bubble. So let's get into these ones.
Yeah, I have Substance at 11 and Seat of the Sacred Fig at 9. So again, and I keep umming and ahhing. Like, I'm like, look, I can see how The Substance gets in, but I can also see it missing. I can see Seat of the Sacred Fig getting in. I could see it missing. I think
where I'm at is I'm a bit more confident in Fajr in director than I am in Russelov, but they are both people who I think could get in.
Yeah.
But I just think, people are getting around it. I've been burned by horror movies before. Absolutely have. I don't even like The Substance as much as most people. I'm a big fan of it, but there are definitely movies I like more this year. Yeah. But it would be really cool to see it happen. And I don't know. It's popping up, you know, and the fact that it's sticking more in above the line categories than below the line categories is one of the most interesting things. Like, I think the Astros really went for it in like director, screenplay, actress, even supporting actress, but then kind of ignored it below the line. It's almost is being represented in the race as a prestige film, not like a well-crafted genre exercise.
Yeah. Although, like, again, makeup, editing.
It's winning makeup.
Like,
come on.
There's kind of I could see The Substance on its best day getting a massive nomination tally.
But then I could also see it still just getting into picture with like just actress, director, screenplay. I could see that happening.
I can see that happening, most definitely. The big thing for me, like, I want to believe in The Substance. I've got it at 11. It keeps creeping into my 10, and then like something like I drop it out, and then I creep it in, and then I drop it out. It's Mubi. And Mubi haven't gotten a Best Picture nomination yet. I'm not to say that they can't, but it's just one of those stats that I'm aware of compared to the fact that Seat of the Sacred Fig is from Neon.
But Neon do have a bigger priority.
They have exactly. And that's why Seat of the Sacred Fig is again, for me, it's on that bubble. But because my hot take, like my whole thing that I want to be able to brag about at the end of the award season is that I've had Seat of the Sacred Fig winning international over Emilia Perez all year. And
you still do?
I still do, yeah.
Brother, I hope you're correct. Again, in a perfect world, we kick out Emilia Perez and The Substance and Sacred Fig around our 10 because I like Sacred Fig even more than The Substance. I think it's an incredible movie. I just haven't seen the passion for it. And what I want is maybe like Nickel Boys for it to win a big critics group award like New York or LA. Or maybe I want to see the Globes like throw it an acting nomination, which they've definitely been inclined to with foreign films.
Yeah.
So it's definitely there, and it's a film I really hope does well, and it's definitely duking it out with The Substance and maybe
I can see
one to two other films.
I can see Seat of the Sacred Fig also doing quite well with BAFTA.
Absolutely.
And if that happens, so again, like See the Sacred Fig, I've got it at 9, I've got Amelia Perez at 10, and I've got The Substance at 11. Like, these are all three that, like, again, like, they're lower in the list because it's like, oh, look, I can see them missing. I could see them getting in. See the Sacred Fig, it's got Neon, but, you know, Neon's pushing Anora more, but, you know, like, that's not to say that they can't push both. Like, yeah, we'll just kind of have to see what ends up happening.
And outside of these, there are really only 2 other films that I take remotely seriously for a Best Picture nomination. There are a lot of films I've written down here, but in terms of actually thinking they could happen, one is A Complete Unknown.
Yep.
Which it came out to not great buzz, but I think good enough buzz to take it seriously as an awards contender. And the fact that Chalamet seems like he might be win competitive, you could get Ed Norton in there. It could get a sound nom, maybe 1 or 2 other texts. I don't think it's going to be a big deal, but it could be the type of thing that limps into 10th if they decide they still hate horror movies, or if Sacred Fig just doesn't take off.
Yeah, I've got A Complete Unknown at 12 as well.
Yeah,
I'm seeing it on Sunday, and I'm looking forward to it. But it strikes me very similarly to something like Ford v Ferrari. Ford v Ferrari was a very well-received film, but no one thought it was going to win Best Picture. And it got into the 10, and it won sound and editing. I think it won both.
Yeah, it would have, surely.
But... and we know James Mangold is a well-liked director, and music biopics can do quite well. And again, there's acting nom for Timmy there. So I think A Complete Unknown is definitely, again, on that cusp. And it'll really just depend on how well it does with other places. Like, I can see it getting into Critics' Choice. I can see it getting into PGA. I can see Timmy winning the SAG for it. So I think it's not unlikely, and that's why I've got it at 12. It's just that I'm wanting to believe in The Substance, because that's the film that I'm like, I'd love this to get in.
Yeah.
But yeah, like A Complete Unknown would not be a complete surprise.
Yeah, and then another film that I kind of put in a similar basket to The Substance, in that it's really, really popular, and I think it's really fun, but not one of my favorites. I'm not giving up on A Challenger's resurgence.
Neither.
I think it's floating around. Yeah, that's my 13 as well. I'm glad we align here. You know, I think there's enough there that you could definitely make. I think it's actually in for score. You can make a case for editing. You could make an outside case for cinematography, because people are really taking notice for Mukti Prom. You know, there's a couple other things that maybe I'll save for when we talk about other categories. But it's a film that, again, is popular enough. It doesn't have a huge nomination ceiling, and it can't really get much in the way of acting.
Well,
let's
we'll leave it.
Yeah, I think we might both have a name that we have feelings about. But it's a fun movie. It would be really cool. And
again,
I don't know.
It did well with the Astros, not that they matter, but I can see it doing well with the Globes. I could see it potentially picking up some BAFTA noms.
SAG would be tricky.
SAG would be tricky, and that's the kind of thing. Like, that's why, again, we don't have it at number 5. We're not like, this is getting in. But I could see that, if there's kind of a couple of gaps in this point, and it feels like the kind of movie that could do quite well on a preferential ballot.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's like, there are movies that will get more nominations that I don't think will be near picture, something like a Gladiator 2, just because there's no passion about it. Whereas Challengers, not a huge nomination ceiling, but there's passion about it, and the people who love it really love it, which definitely bodes kind of well. Are there any other films that you think should be taken seriously here?
You just mentioned one of my other two, because I've got 15 that I think are in contention.
I've got 20, but most of them are not.
You just said Gladiator 2. I don't think it's happening.
I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
But because I know that it'll get a lot of texts, I can't not have it as a maybe on the bubble, just because it's around.
Yeah, for sure.
The thing that distinguishes it from like a Napoleon last year, which also got some tech noms, is that Denzel Washington is going to get probably a Best Supporting Actor nom. And so it's like, all right, there's something there. And also, like, Gladiator 2 is a sequel to a Best Picture winning film. That doesn't necessarily mean it's getting in.
Yeah, generally you need to be like as good.
Yeah, but I think it's worth mentioning. Like, that was the whole thing. Like, earlier this year was the fact that we had so many sequels or prequels to Best Picture nominated films. We had Furiosa, prequel to Mad Max Fury Road. We had Joker Folie à Deux, which was, sequel to Joker. neither of those really eventuated anywhere. Everyone was like, oh, is Inside Out 2 going to get in when Inside Out couldn't? But now Wild Robot's looking like it'll beat it in an animated feature, so Inside Out 2's not. But Gladiator 2, of all the films this year, apart from Dune Part 2, that are sequels to Best Picture nominees, is one that I'm like, look, I could see it getting in. And again, because when you break it down by studio and you see who's pushing what.
Because Paramount don't really have shit.
Paramount have Gladiator 2.
September 5th, which I also don't buy.
And September 5th, and that's my 15th.
I have September 14th, but I really just, I still think it's like not real, but
yeah, like September 5th it's the kind of film that like I'm waiting to see it show up somewhere. Like I'm waiting for like a surprise SAG ensemble nom, or for it to do very well at the BAFTAs. Something where there's a voter overlap with the voting body of the Academy. Because until then, I think that it's not really going to happen. But it's from Paramount, and across my top 15, everyone is represented. A24, Neon, Universal, Warner Brothers, Focus Features, Searchlight, Amazon, Netflix, Mubi, Paramount.
Yeah.
And they're the only ones that really tend to get in, because Lionsgate don't have anything. Disney have Searchlight. Like, that's their kind of awards arm. And that's kind of it. So...
yeah, and beyond that, it's like, I think Nosferatu won't be a non-entity, but I don't think Picture is a far cry. Saturday Night's kind of lost steam. It'll probably pick up some mini noms everywhere in terms of like ensemble editing, score type stuff.
I've been saying it all year. Saturday Night is Glass Onion. It'll get screenplay, and it'll. I don't
even think it'll get screenplay, to be honest.
I think it'll show up at the Globes and do quite well. It might get some Critics' Choice nominations. And it could get screenplay, but I don't think it's really anything outside of that.
Yep, and then beyond any other films you have written down? I've got a couple more, but again, it's making up the numbers. I don't have anything else written down. You can rattle some off, because I've kind of like, everything else is more stuff that look, earlier in the year, people were like, maybe this, and since then it's like, no. Like there are a select group of people who are really passionate about I'm Still Here, and I think that will get a couple nominations, so that's just another foreign film to shout out.
Actually, that being said, I could see I'm Still Here doing a Drive My Car, where it just does so well.
It would need to get started soon, but...
well, critics groups are about to happen, and if it does very well with critics groups, and Sony Pictures Classics doesn't have anything else really that they're pushing, because the Outrun's not really a player outside of Actress, I could very much see I'm Still Here surprise. Yeah, that's one that is worth mentioning. The other one that a lot of people seem to be a big believer in, which is also Sony Pictures Classics, is The Room Next Door.
I don't have that in my 20. I think it's like there are a couple categories where I'm like, outside shot, but I just think Picture's not.
People think like it could get that 6th drama nom at the Globes. It could do quite well at the BAFTAs, but I just, like maybe we're underestimating The Room Next Door. Maybe it gets into Picture, and it gets into Actress, and it gets into Screenplay, and it gets Score, and all these things. But I just
it's one I haven't seen, so I can't comment on how it actually looks at a movie. I know the Oscars love Almodovar, but it's just this one. The reaction to this has been even more muted to something, for example, like Parallel Mothers, which like did get a couple nominations.
They didn't nominate Almodovar's short film.
No. And he didn't even get director for Parallel Mothers, which was a film that they were kind of into. So it's just, it feels like a long shot. And then, you got your random ones that are in contention for a couple nominations, something like Maria or The Piano Lesson. But again, if Netflix is getting anything, it's Emilia Perez.
Emilia Perez,
they're not getting 2 in.
No, they're not. Yeah, they're not getting 2 in. They're not going to get Wallace and Gromit in, which would be amazing. They're not going to get the 6 888 in from Tyler
Diane Warren mentioned.
There's nothing else really that Netflix have got that is going to get in. I've seen The Piano Lesson. I really liked it. I think
I haven't
it's
gotten
actually
around to it yet.
One of my I thought The Piano Lesson was really, really good, but I just don't think it's going to get into Picture, and I don't know if it's going to come along anywhere else either. So
no. That is Picture, I think. There's a lot of still interesting stuff to play out. I feel like we got a few spots that are certainly up for grabs, and I don't think we have a clean front runner for the win, which is always nice this time of year. So all right, that's that for this video. Stay tuned. We've got a few more videos coming. We're going to go through every single category. Thanks so much for watching.
Except shorts. We're not
Subscribe.
talking about the shorts.
No, we're not talking about. We don't know
We'll talk
anything
about that.
yet. I mean, we
Yeah.
barely know anything about the main categories, let alone the shorts.
Indeed.
Thanks again for joining me, Mikey. Where can the people find you?
You can find me at all of the links in the description. So go and follow me on Letterboxd and on the Award Expert app if you want to see my, my awards predictions being updated more in real time. Go and follow me on Instagram at Movie Mike Reviews. And there'll be some other links in the descriptions to some other places that I write some stuff. But thank you for watching.
Check out my podcast, The Film Draft. That's where most of my creative output goes nowadays. We have new episodes every week.
They're the best ones.
Mikey's on a lot of episodes, and he has a mic now, so maybe he'll be on a few more in the coming future. But yeah, that's what I do most now in terms of my online presence, talking about movies. But there'll be a few more of these Oscar videos to come. Subscribe, follow everyone in the comments, and feel free to tell me I'm wrong about the substance.